Welcome to Jewel TV. I told you one day I'm gonna make a jingle out there.
Jewel TV.
No, it's not gonna be like that. But welcome. Usually I am on. Shaking the tape. Usually I am on YouTube and I pre-record my videos and I put them on YouTube. So I don't really come on live to do anything. But, you know, the Lord wouldn't let me get away with that. So out of obedience, this week of Jewel TV is live. And I get to interact with you all. I get to, see what y'all talking about real live time, right? So if you don't know, if you haven't seen any of my videos on YouTube, somebody find my YouTube link and share it for me. Did have that already. Anywho, got me. Thank you. So if you've never tuned into a Jewel TV on YouTube, so my platform, I use my platform to discuss various topics around the big topic of toxic relationships. So I come there, you'll see videos of encouragement, you'll see videos of tips, of resources, really just helping people be able to identify what those warning signs are, that hey, I may be in a toxic relationship. What do I do? How do I move forward? And giving those tidbits to help you prevent from getting into them, and then also helping you be able to identify so you can get yourself out. So there's an encouragement, there's testimonials, and it all stemmed from me writing my book named Jewel, which is my life story. And from birth to late in my life, I discussed various situations that I went through, and I've been through a lot of relationships that were toxic, relationships that I was toxic in, and so I have a lot of experience in that area. And my goal in it all is just to share what my experience was, share how I got through, share what I learned, to help some other people out there get through it as well. So with that being said, that's what Jewel TV is about. And so today we have a special live, hey y'all, on the topic of moving on. And yes. So I brought my special guest with his hubby. He goes by the name Kyle. And I brought him on because I would love to share the story of our story about how I transitioned and I moved on into another relationship. And it's not what you think, because my advice is going to be, don't do what I did. But
please don't. Please.
Don't do what I did, and you'll see why I say that. But before we jump into that, I also, the whole reason why I opened up this platform and I'm using this platform and putting myself out there is because I am doing a relaunch of my book. When I launched my book, I silently launched it out of fear, I'm just doing it, but you know, I don't really want anybody to really buy it, which is stupid. And it's supposed to be for the masses, to help people out there. So I have been instructed by the man above to relaunch, but not to just relaunch the same book. It's gonna have a bonus chapter in it. So these videos, these lives, Jewel TV, is to build up that, you know, anticipation for that book to come out. So that's going to be coming out in November. I am relaunching. I'm doing I'm going to have a sign-in and everything. Bump COVID. Virtual sign-ins. I can do that too. But anywho, I'm going to really push this out there and put myself out there so you guys know who I am and all that good stuff. Now, so not only a relaunch of my book, but I'm also coming out with a affirmation book, which is going to be called Jewel 360, and it's going to be daily affirmations to help keep you lifted throughout each and every day. So we go through stuff, you know, we go through the drag through the dirt, and we in the low and the dark. So that book is to really help you get through each and every day, a daily affirmation for you to read, for you to instill in you. So that's Jewel 365. Did I say 365? 365. Jewel 365. So that's gonna come out as well in November, you know, God willing. So, with that,
coming out.
It's coming.
It's coming out.
It's coming out. I don't have a choice now. I told y'all. So, y'all hold me accountable. Y'all make sure, you know, y'all, that stuff has to come out, and I have to come out. So here I am. So moving on into the topic. Moving on. So, the way I moved on. So, you know, my story basically is that I've been, one particular relationship was extremely toxic. It was extremely abusive. And I went through hell and back with this relationship. And, you know, after leaving, I jumped into another. And I've been like that since my first boyfriend. I've jumped from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I have never had a moment to be by myself. And so that's not what I want for you guys. And I'm saying that because I'm going to share how our relationship started. And in the middle of it, we've been together since 2011.
Yeah.
2011. We've been together for a very long time. And though by the grace of God, everything was working out and it's great now, it wasn't always peaches and cream and roses and all that.
Sugar plum, lollipops and gumdrops.
And the reason for that is because I never had a moment to heal from my past trauma. Everything that I've dealt with, I dragged it along into my new relationship. So it's a lot of things that he had to endure from me, where I was very toxic. That, you know, I just advise you don't do. You don't want to jump into another relationship carrying all the baggage from your last relationships. So
Haven't said hello. I remember.
So yeah. So you don't want to do that. So so let's talk about that. Let's talk about.
We're gonna get real.
We're gonna get real. I got water to sip on unless you get a little crazy. So
I'm gonna keep it a buck.
So yeah. So let's start off. So I left that toxic relationship where the man did me dirty. I was abused. I was raped. I was, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I went on and moved on, and I jumped into a relationship with this guy. And I picked up a lot of toxic traits, if you will. And then I have a whole video on that on the red flags, all the red flags that I've identified. But I brought some things over. I brought a lot of baggage, a lot of heartache and pain into this relationship. So when did that start? Like, when did that, you know, every relationship starts off great. It's all great. You know, we were good. I was like, ooh, this is fresh. I am free. That man is in jail. My ex was in jail. I was like, and he was gone for a minute. And I was like, oh, I'm free. I get to go ahead and move on. And so the relationship started off as all relationships do, all exciting and great. And then
it got toxic.
I brought a lot of, my ways were interesting. So
very interesting.
So one story in particular that I can think of is when I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I already had a daughter, my oldest, from that previous relationship, which she was conceived through rape. So it wasn't my first pregnancy was horrible. Didn't enjoy, you know, pregnancy is supposed to be great and all. Worst pregnancy ever. Not that carrying her was stressful, but just dealing with her biological father, dealing with his abuse. I was punched in my stomach when I was pregnant with my first daughter. I just dealt with a lot of threats. I'm kill you, I'm this, that, and the third. Just a lot going on. And the pregnancy wasn't something I enjoyed. So when I was pregnant with our first child, which was my second daughter, I didn't know how to enjoy it. I didn't know how to enjoy it. I was waiting on him to
evil.
I was waiting on him to mess up or something so I could just say, you know what? I knew it. Like, this is just another thing that just ain't gonna work out. I'm about to have just be a single mom with 2 kids from 2 different baby daddies, and that's just gonna be my life. And I just had, along with, some of it was pregnancy hormones, right? But a lot of it was, I didn't heal from my past, and it brought up a lot of being pregnant a second time. It like I said, it wasn't joyful. It was just like whatever. And so I took it out a lot. I took it out on him a lot, and I was not a very good pregnant mate. I was, as he would say, evil. Why you tell it then?
I would walk into a room and she would just like, I would like pick something up and she was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, whoa, calm down. We gotta what's going on? Is there something wrong? Did I do something? And there was never a point of being able to say I did something wrong or I did something. It just became the pure existence of me during the pregnancy or during anything annoyed her to her very soul. And it was like, I couldn't do I would try to do the right thing, but even if in trying to do the right thing, it was like anger and frustration, and it was like always nitpicking something I was doing in the middle of the pregnancy. And it just got so bad that for me, being transparent, I was like, I'm breaking up with her. I am going to break up with her while she's pregnant, and we just gonna have to figure out this co-parent thing, because I know I'm not going to tolerate this, and this is too much, and this is crazy. So for me, it got so bad that I was like, all right, I need to have a sit-down conversation. You remember the sit-down conversation?
I do, and it was a changing point for me, because what I did in particular, some of the things that I would do is that I learned from my previous. So now I wasn't always like this. Janae just wasn't the person who was just mean and evil and want to talk down with people. But I picked it up, after dealing with my ex for so long and all his ways, I picked up some attitude and some, look, I'm gonna talk to you any type of way, because you just ain't no good anyway. And I'm gonna talk down to you. I'm gonna show you that I am the dominant one in this relationship, and I was that one. I would like really make him feel low and try to. I was mean, y'all.
She would try to purposely say things to cut you.
I was mean. Yes, that was a toxic trait that I was very good at. I can say the very thing that I know that will hurt you and cut you, but I learned that from my previous relationship, because that's just something that we did. We just did it back and forth. I hate you, you hate me, whatever. And I didn't know how to enjoy, like I said, this pregnancy. How to enjoy a man who actually loved me. I didn't know how. I was just like, look, anything you do, I'm
And so really what ended up happening was I had enough.
So yeah, the conversation.
What ended up happening was I had enough, and I was just like, okay, this is the pivotal point where you have a decision to make, because I know what I'm going to tolerate and I know what I'm not going to tolerate. And I had a sit down conversation with her where I was like, look, this is what it's been, and this is not what I expect out of my relationship. And if this is any indication of what our relationship is going to be like, I'd rather walk away and co-parent than to endure this. I'm not going to accept this, and I'm not going to be treated like anything I don't want to be treated like. So we had a point where we really had a sit down conversation, and it was a hard conversation to have. I want to say it's probably the first conversation we ever had that like a tear dropped out of my eye, because I was like, it will hurt me to leave you, but I'd rather leave you than to stay in something that's not going to be good for me.
And that was the eye opener conversation. And that's and that's what my advice would be to anybody is to you set your boundaries. You don't have to accept certain behavior just because you love somebody, or like, oh well, this person I felt was for me. You can still have boundaries and put them up. So he made his boundaries very known, and it was, you're not gonna come in and talk to me any type of way, and I'm not gonna accept this type of behavior. And guess what? I didn't even know I was doing anything wrong. I was like, it took him exposing it and going down like, this is how you talk to me, this is how you treat me, and I'm like, I do, and then but it was so, and then his family, God bless them, they would catch it, but they would do things like, let's get Janae some food, I think she's hungry.
Yeah, they would always be like, let's just shut her up with some food,
because
like, give her some food now, please.
She's acting a little, she's acting out right now, so let's get her some food. But other people were seeing it as well, and but it took that raw, real conversation and sat down, and even to see him shed the shit, I've never seen this man cry at that time. And I was like, oh, like, he was always, and he's always that person, like, yeah, I don't cry, yeah, whatever. But he shed a tear, and I was like, okay. It was an eye-opener day where I was like, oh, this man really loves me, and I'm not doing right. I'm being toxic. I'm treating him crazy, and it's not good. So
what also came about after it was the behavior changed. So it wasn't that one of those, it wasn't one of those like, I'm just pregnant, I'm hormonal kind of things, and I'm going to be acting a certain type of way. No, what came behind it was the behavior change. And it changed in a manner of where we were able to have conversations where we, don't do me, where we were able to have conversations, yes, and we were able to communicate effectively without having to feel that type of way all the time, like feel as if your very existence was an annoyance. And that changed after us having that conversation. But it took having the courage enough to let you know, like, I'm willing to walk away if this is what it's going to be.
Right. And so, like I said, it was a lot of work that I had to work on me. And I didn't have, all of that could have been avoided. We didn't have to probably go down that dark road. If I would have left that relationship, that old relationship, took a moment to work on me, to reflect, okay, what did I just go through? Okay, I need some healing. I need to talk to somebody, something, because I can't bring all of that into the relationship. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's good because now it's a learning thing. It's something that I could share. As far as transitioning, you don't want to jump into another relationship with all of this hurt and pain. And yes, Pastor, you said I was protecting myself. I had my wall up. And I was just like, I was expecting him. And sometimes I would do things like, I would waiting for him. I'm like, go ahead, he's gonna put his hands on me. Go put your hands on me. Put your hands on. Like I would. And
it was crazy.
I was waiting for him to do something like that. I was like trying to self-stop.
We had so many times where it was like almost like expecting me to do something crazy. And for me, I was somebody who dealt with like anger issues. So
I was waiting for it.
For me, I always found ways to check my anger. And I learned how to protect myself by doing things like I will walk away. I'll do different type of things so that I don't
fall for it.
I don't
be like, come on.
I don't have to allow myself to get to this level of anger that I know I can go. So I would do things to protect myself, and in the middle of it, and she would not stop. She would not stop. And it would just be like, for me, I'm one of those, like, let's have a conversation. Let's have a normal conversation. Let's talk it out so that we can communicate. I can hear you. I can understand what you're trying to say so that we're not getting into this point where we're talking at each other and not talking to each other. So there were points in time where it was like she was expecting me to respond a certain type of way. Like there was the time where you mushed me in the car, and I told her, like, I was like, hey, I don't want to argue right now. Let's just have a conversation, and if we can't talk normal about something, like, let's just not, like, let's table it until we can talk about it. But
It was weird. Yeah, I was like,
she,
I'm not used to this.
for her, what was happening is she did not want to have that kind of conversation. Um, and a lot of times when it became arguments, like, she would get super like, ah, and it was just like, yo, like, can we just have a normal conversation? And I'm not that person, like, where I want to argue. Like, I'd rather us talk it out. So there was this time where she was mad about something, and because she was mad, she just wanted to go there. And I'm like, two people going there are not going to work, and it's not going to be beneficial. And I felt like she was doing things just to see how I would respond. If I would respond, if you just push me and you keep pushing me, am I going to respond where I'm just going to snap and I'm going to just hit you? If you mush me, am I going to snap and I'm just going to hit you? So there was this time where we got into an argument in the car, and she mushed me, and I'm driving, and I'm like, I ain't never had nobody mush me before now. And so for me, I'm like, I got to figure out what my next move is. And my next move was, I'm exiting out of this
Walk away.
situation and I'm walking away.
He always would walk away, and it was good. I mean, he constantly had to prove himself. Like, that's not me. Like, you expected me to be what your ex was, or you expected me to do you dirty some type of way, but that's not me. And it was weird to me because I was expecting some type of, I'm like, don't relationships is what y'all do, like, you fight, you know, you do, like, what is this, like, why is everything so good, and you treat me good? And it was just something I wasn't used to, something I didn't know how to accept, something I didn't know how to receive. So I took just a lot of that baggage and I brought it in, and it just wasn't a good start. And so, like I said, my advice would always be to work on yourself before moving on. If I took the time to be single for a while and to reflect, okay, I went through this relationship, it wasn't good, be able to identify where my toxic traits were, what I did wrong or what I picked up, and working on that first before, putting somebody else through something like that. Like, if I would have came in whole and good, we wouldn't have to deal with all of that. And even if I know some of y'all on the line, we know that somebody may be, God said that's I know for sure, like, that's my husband. And I think about my pastor. She always tells a story about when she knew when her husband was her husband, but she knew it wasn't time to get married yet, or to jump into that yet. There were some things that had to be worked out first before doing that. And so, like, even if okay, this one is I know that's my husband, or I know that's supposed to be my man, whatever the case may be, that don't mean go ahead and jump on right into it. You have to still work out those kinks, work on yourself, and take the time to work on yourself. And when I say take the time, and to be single, I know people be single for 10 plus years and still ain't work on whatever, and they think, oh well, okay, I went through my single period, and you jumping into a relationship, but you still ain't deal with the trauma or whatever that you went through with your past relationship, and now you still bringing that, no matter how long time you took, you still bringing that in because you didn't address it, you didn't deal with it. And so I wrote down, I said, so what does that look like? What does making a healthy transition into a relationship looks like? And so I have seven tips about what you should do when you're leaving either your old relationship just didn't work out, or if it was a bad relationship, or even we can tie this even into friendships. You had a friendship that you had a friendship that was like a long friendship, it didn't work out, whatever the case may be. You can all tie these tips into that. So we're gonna jump into that because it's 7 things that I want to get out. before I do that, was there anything else that I was gonna...
No, but
We're gonna talk about more stuff I did.
No, but one of the big things that we had a big struggle with was communication. And for us,
yes,
communication was a struggle, but it was one of the things that when we did marriage counseling, shout out to Pastor Miller who did our marriage counseling. It was one of the things that was tabled on there was y'all have a communication thing. So when you guys communicate, you have to make a stride to make communication your strong suit. So because there's a deficit, that's something that we had to really work on over accentuating to make sure that we each other hear each other and we work past any struggles that we're having. So communication was something that
because I thought yelling was like, okay, if I yell, you gonna hear me, and you gonna take this in, and you gonna shut up because I'm yelling and you gonna hear me, and that's how I used to we would try to have like a conversation, and he would do things too, y'all. He would be all monotone and like, yeah.
Okay, so I'm the person that's
this.
like, I'm not. If you're gonna yell, I'm not gonna yell. This is where I'm gonna remain. I'm gonna keep my voice here, and if you're ready to talk, we'll talk. And she didn't like that.
I feel like it, no.
She didn't like that. She's like, oh, you're talking to me in a condescending tone.
He's very condescending.
So we had to like really overcome that hump and really take a step back and say, okay, we're not going to have terrible communication. So what is it that you're trying to say to me? Get it out. Okay. Like sometimes when we talk, I'll say, okay. And I'll let you get everything out, and then she'll let me get everything out before she rebuttals, because we're no longer like just listening for a comeback, but we're listening to understand, and we're actually talking to each other now.
Yeah.
And understanding each other.
I used to be ready. Like, yeah?
Yeah, she used to be ready. Well, for real.
He used to just go, I'm so sorry. I realized that I feel like God brought that back to me, like, girl, you was toxic too. Like I was able to point out toxic traits in other people, but I was like, you got to check yourself and examine yourself, because now you bringing in things that you learned over the years into somebody else. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Anyway,
you learn to overcome it.
Moving on. I'm putting myself on Front Street. Usually I'm the one talking about other people, but yeah. I had to acknowledge that, and I had to make the decision. All right, do I love him enough to change? Do I love myself enough to change my behavior? And yeah, it had to be changed. So we worked on that. It took some time. It don't happen overnight. It takes practice. It takes time. So
yep, and it's almost been 10 years.
10 years, almost 10 plus. Sheesh. So number one. To what does that transition look like? We're not staying single just to do nothing. We have work to do. We have to work on ourselves after leaving a bad relationship, or even thinking about moving into a new relationship, or we just gotta work on ourselves. So number one is, first of all, accepting that the relationship did not work out or that it was bad. I think about that song. Who was it? Heather Headley.
In my mind.
So it's this song that goes, in my mind, I'll always be his lady.
Somebody tell you that, run.
In my mind,
run.
I'll always be.
That's toxic.
No. It's time for you to accept that whatever that old relationship was, it didn't work. It either ended, it was bad, or whatever. You got to be able to accept that in order to move on. You can't be, one of the things you can't do is like, well, shoot, he always gonna be, like, if you would have broke up with me, I would have been like, well, he always gonna be my man. I don't know what he's talking about.
Okay.
That song.
My name would have been Bob.
I used to love that song. That was way back, like 2000 something. But I used to really love that song, and then I stopped and I'm listening to the words, and I'm like, is she saying that?
Watch what you feed in
I'm
your
like,
spirit.
she a little crazy. That's a little crazy.
It's more than crazy. Psychotic.
So we don't want that in your mind. You always going if it was bad, if it didn't work out, if it was good, just let it on go and move on. So that's the number one. Just accept it. It is what it is. Whatever happened, happened. The past is the past. So number two, and that's the big one.
Facts. That song is dead wrong. In your mind, you better get your mind right.
I want to tell them to go listen to Heather Headley in my mind.
No, don't listen. That song is toxic. It'll have you doing the wrong thing.
That song crazy. Okay, number two. Hey, y'all. Number two is acknowledge and get rid of the baggage. This is a lot we was talking about. The baggage that you picked up, the baggage from your previous relationship. Just the things that you know ain't good. First of all, it has to be acknowledged. Okay, do I have this trait in me? Am I toxic? Like Pastor said, you put it up there. Am I the toxic one in the relationship? What did I do wrong? Am I did I talk to him crazy? Did I have self-sabotaging ways? Was I controlling? Was I manipulative? Just outright, just crazy, yelling, screaming, had anger problems, like whatever that is, you have to be able to acknowledge it. And then once you acknowledge it, what are we doing to get rid of it? Are we seeking counseling? Are we seeking help for the trauma that, dealing with the trauma that we went through? Acknowledge, okay, I went through a rape, and I didn't realize, okay, maybe I needed my like I said, my daughter was conceived through rape, and that even carried into our relationship because he would always be rough and like play fight. Like he was always going to play fight, right?
And she seemed to like it too at first.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, we playing around, whatever the case may be. But he would get extra rough, and like one particular thing, that I remember the day, and I actually cried, and that's when I realized, I said, wait a minute, I got a problem.
She cried, and I didn't understand at the point in time because I didn't know the depth of the relationship that she previously went through, because we never had that full-on conversation at the point in time. Right.
I didn't really share all in depth of what I went through previously. I was like, I'm gonna keep that. I'm like, I'm free. He in jail for 5 years. We gotta talk about that. But he was fighting with me, and he literally grabbed my arm and pinned me down to the bed and was like, we play fighting, and I like to the point where I couldn't get up, and it triggered something in me when I was like, Kyle, you're hurting me, Kyle, get up. And he's like, we playing. And I'm like, no, you're like, you don't understand. And I went into a full blown breakdown, and he looking at me like, what the heck is wrong? But
I know, because 2 seconds ago she had me in a headlock. And then she's full out crying, and I'm not understanding what happened, what went wrong, and it all happened so fast. And I had to let go, and I was like, what's wrong? Like, we were just having fun, laughing and joking, and now you're bawling, and like you're like kind of like shoving yourself into a corner, like you're afraid of me. And we were just playing, so like
it triggered. It was like what they call it, PTSD. Like it really triggered something where it brought me back flashes of the abuse that I went through, and even that particular rape of being held down. And he had to kind of figure it out, and I had to figure it out. Like, wait a minute, I still got things that I didn't heal from, that I need to get off, and I need to
and there was a learning curve also for me personally, because that's when I saw her cry like that and be scared, it was something that I said, okay, so
we don't play fight no more.
We don't play fight. Like, if this is going to be a trigger, we don't play fight anymore. And there was some things that I had to stop doing, that though it's like we have fun, and though like there were things that I had to learn based off of the things that she went through, how to be respectful of what she went through and not be a trigger to what she went through. So I had to say, okay, we're not going to play fight anymore. If she ever gets to the point of where she wants to play fight, we can play fight, but we're not going to do that anymore. And really guarding that so that I'm also not seen in that same light as her ex was.
Right. So I had to acknowledge that, okay, I have a problem. I have some real issues that I need to either talk to someone about, get some help. and really deal with it and put it out there. And therapeutically talking about it is good. I never ever, I remember when I was asked, when my pastor Rachel Senior, there she go, she asked me to come to talk about the program Girly, where we went into the schools and we talked about our past baggage, things that we went through in front of these young girls. And I remember it was my first time really talking about what I went through. I never really talked about it to people, and like he said, it wasn't until lately, and I was like, okay, let me start sharing what I've been through. But that is therapeutic as well, not holding it in, not keeping it to yourself. You don't go through these things to go and then hold it to yourself. You got to talk it out. Like, this happened to me, this is how I felt, this is what I experienced, whatever, just get it out. But so that was number 2, acknowledge and get rid of the baggage. You don't want to be going into another relationship grabbing just all these suitcases of toxic behavior and just baggage or pain and hurt that you went through, because you're gonna taint your new relationship. Number 3 is to fill that void. Once you get rid of all of that, all that baggage, all that toxic stuff, is to fill it with positivity. So you want to embrace positivity. You want to manifest positivity. You want to have, first of all, have people around you that are positive. You want to speak positive things out there. But you gotta, that's what, when I say manifest that positivity, you want to have and make sure that you're doing what you have to do to have that stuff around you, so that you're filling in that void with other positive things. If you picking up a hobby, if you doing something that you love to do, or whatever, you want to have positivity around you. So that would be number 3, positivity. Embrace it. Find your one positive person in your group and talk to them, whatever it is. But you got to fill that that void that you may feel, that I'm not in a relationship, I don't have somebody right now. Instead of filling that void with another person, fill it with other positive things before moving into another relationship. So number 4 would be forgive. This was a big one for me. Forgive. So number 1, forgive yourself and forgive them. You cannot move on with unforgiveness in your heart. It is going to take over. It's going to manifest into this bitterness or into this, attitude where you treating somebody wrong because somebody else did you wrong. And that saying, hurt people. Like, we want to cut that out. Mm-hmm. We want to cut that off, that cycle off. Not hurt people. So it took me a while to actually truly in my heart forgive. And forgiveness is a process. It's not, you don't say, oh, I forgive, and then it's good, all that feeling is gone. It's a process. You got to constantly work on forgiveness and really tell yourself over and over, okay, I forgive this person for what they did for me, until you actually feel it in your heart and it's done. You've forgiven. Like me, I don't have no ill will. I could care less about my ex. I mean, forgiveness don't mean you got to be friends and you got to be, you got to be up on the person, but it's for you. It's for you, so you don't have that baggage of unforgiveness, so that you're not walking around being toxic to other people. And then forgive yourself. Is it something that you did that maybe ruined a relationship, or something that was horrible that you did? You want to forgive yourself. You can't walk around with unforgiveness in your heart. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to stop you from moving in things. It's not good. So forgive. Number 5 would be to learn who you are. Either remember who you are or who you were. With me, I had to remember who I was, because I turned into this evil one, as you would call. I wouldn't use that harsh word, evil.
She wasn't evil. She was just
evil.
Jaded.
It's okay. But I had to think back of, wait a minute, I'm not that person. I wasn't that person. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't taught to be that way. Where did this come from? So I had to remember who I used to be, and then I had to learn who I was walking into. Who is Janae now? Um, what do I like to do? And that was a big thing because he would ask me all the time, like, "What do you like to do? Like, don't you have
Yes.
friends? Like, go do something." And I'm like, "No, I just want to be under you." Like, I just
And that was a big thing for me because like
yeah,
I was always like my friends. I hang out with my friends. I have you and me time. I know what I like to do. I know where I like to go. I do these things, and for her, she didn't know what she liked to do. And what she liked to do became like being with me 24/7. And it was just like,
I didn't know what I like to do. I didn't know what
hey,
I
find
liked. I
something you
didn't.
like to do because this is getting old.
So that's another thing that if I would have dealt with that before I jumped into this relationship, is something that I didn't have to drag in, and I had to learn throughout the relationship because I literally just was under him 24/7, and I'm like I don't. I mean, I have friends, but I'm like, like I don't know. Especially when we moved out to, we were originally from New York, and then we moved to Georgia, and so when I didn't have anybody, but like really, I'm like I don't know. Even if he was like, call somebody, go out with them, and do what? Like I don't know.
Yeah, so it was
So
like it was a heavy dependency.
I had to
Um,
learn.
yeah, you definitely had to learn and how to be able to enjoy things separately and be able to come together and enjoy things together. So there was
Yeah.
you time, but there was me time, and there was times we were able to take out for each other, and just to be able to say, I need a moment for myself.
Cause that could be toxic as well. It's just like bump your me, like your me time. Like no, that's we time. Like that's it's we time and that's it. And that could really drain a person. It's like you have to learn who you are, the things that you like to do. Yeah. And so number 6. This is a good one because I hear this one all the time, and it's like I need closure, or I'm waiting for closure before I move on and do anything. And let me break that little stigma. You do not have to wait for closure. You don't have to wait for an apology. You don't need any of it to move on, to work on you, to even move on into another. Like you don't. So let's break that. Let's kill that. I hear that. I'm gonna call him because I just need closure. I need to understand, why. Nope. Guess what? After all I went through, I ain't never get no apology, nothing. And guess what? I don't care. Like, what is it? If you never get an apology for what somebody did to you, are you really gonna let that hold you back from finding out who you are, for even finding another new relationship? You gonna let that hold you back?
You be no stupid.
You gonna be waiting all your life. If I was waiting for an apology from my ex, I'm still sitting here, but I'm not. I don't need closure. I don't need I don't. I was able to self-reflect and do the work in me, and able to move on that way, not through somebody else's actions or closure. So let's kill that. And then the last one, and then I'm gonna open to any questions y'all may have or whatever. But number 7, oh look at that, 7 completion. I didn't even know. Number 7 would be, I just have serenity. Serenity. When you look up the word serenity, it means being in a state of calmness, having peace, being untroubled. And so when you're working on yourself, you want to get to that point where you have peace with yourself, you have peace with your situation, you are able to move in some calmness and really be good. What they say now, unbothered. I'm unbothered. Like, no, serenity. And then you think about that serenity prayer where you able to, what is it? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Know that you can't change people. You may want to be like sit, and a lot of reasons why we stay too in toxic relationships, and we're like, okay, no, I'm gonna change. I was at that one point. That was me at one point. I'm gonna be able to change this person. He gonna change because I'm different. I ain't like them other ones, and know and learn. You sometimes you can't change people. You can't. So don't stick around thinking, oh well, one day it's been 10 years, but one day they gonna change. No. If I never change, and you would have been sitting there for a couple of years, 10 years, talking about, well, she probably gonna stop mushing me. She probably gonna stop mushing me now.
Absolutely not. I level set the understanding. I made the standard of what it was I was going to accept. And if the behavior continued, then it was just going to be a point where I was going to have to walk away. And sometimes it's better to walk away than to remain in the situation.
Absolutely.
Protect your serenity.
So that is the 7 tidbits, or should I say 7 jewels, that you definitely want to apply before moving on into whether you moving into single life, whether you moving on into another relationship. Like I said, my advice, don't jump from relationship to relationship and not deal with you without working on you. So I would definitely use those tips. Get rid of that baggage, address it, acknowledge it. I think a lot of the times we quiet. We don't talk about stuff. We don't share. And that's why I'm big on transparency. You know, some people be like, I don't want people to know my business or know that I did that or know that I used to be that way. No, you know, sometimes, well, for us, it's good to be transparent and put it out there and say, and then we can look back, especially when we talk back like out loud about it, like, dang, I did that.
Yeah. Like
I was that. So it's eye-opening when you able to speak it out, talk it out, and
even for those that are in relationships, taking that time to reflect, taking that time to see, listen and reflect. That's a big tidbit that I can give somebody, is to really take that time out to listen and to reflect on what your spouse is saying, what your significant other is saying, because there's truth behind some of the things that they're saying, and you have to be able to see you in the midst of. There were things that I've done that I had to see me and turn around and say, I acknowledge that, and I'm going to work on me to change. If you're going to commit to being in a relationship, you also have to commit to leveling up and leveling up as a unit. If you want your relationship to work and you want it to not have any level of toxicity in it, you want to make sure that you guys are listening, you guys are building, and you guys are pushing towards a common goal. We knew we wanted to push to a common goal, so we had to start to say what it is that we don't want to tolerate in our relationship, what we're owning and saying, and then we're being accountable to one another. We're being accountable to one another where we're saying, hey, I'm seeing you do that same thing again, and calling each other out on it, because now it's like, oh, I am doing that. Let me take a step back. I apologize for doing that. But having that level of accountability to your spouse, to your partner, helps to be able to shift the dynamic of what can possibly be trying to fester inside your relationship. Remember, we don't want toxic relationships, but we want fruitful relationships.
Yep, and we don't want to be walking around in denial. I think a lot of times we be like, that ain't me, I ain't do that, no, I didn't. And we're like, how many times you gotta be told, no, you are. Remember, I think you used to do that all the time. Remember, you used to be like, Janae, your tone, like he got to the point he was like, I'm gonna record you so you can see what you're doing. Because I was like, I do not do that. Yep. I do not do that. I don't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I was talking to you at this level, but he'd be like, Janae.
I'm like,
Janae, you was yelling. I was not yelling. Like, and he would get to the point where like, I'm gonna record you because you need to see.
and then it just so happened that it happened one day where somebody else from the outside was able to see it, and they were like, ooh, dang, Janae.
was like, whatever. Like, if y'all say so.
And so I was like, finally, somebody else was able to see. But if we take the time out to actually listen to some things our spouses are saying, and read in between the lines, we can also be able to find ways to catch it, check it, and change it. Yeah. We got to be able to catch it. We got to be able to check it. And we got to be able to change it. And that's a big portion of us being able to move forward and launch our relationships forward.
Catch it, check it, change it. I like that. Write that down. Okay. So, yes, y'all. So, we are successfully in a healthy relationship now, but it took work. It took dedication. It took us working on ourselves individually as well to be able to come together and have the good relationship that we have now. To hear even like someone said, like Marisha Elizabeth, she's like, I never hear y'all argue. I never like, what? Really? We used to argue all the time. Like, so we've come a long way, but it takes work, y'all. It takes work. Any relationship takes work, but you don't want to, like I said, bring that old baggage from your old relationship, or assume that, well, you gonna be like them, or you gonna do me like them, or expect. You don't want to do that. They said, what was the 3C?
Catch it, check it, change it.
Yeah, catch it, check it, change it. That was good. So, y'all, we got about 4 more minutes left of this live. If y'all have any questions for us, feel free to drop them now. But like I said, I don't know, I kind of like this live now.
Yeah, she was freaking out all before, and I was like, it's gonna be fine.
I was saying earlier, I record my Jewel TV episodes, on YouTube, and y'all go watch it when y'all want to watch it. And I was against live, I guess. I was like, everybody else do live, I gotta do live. I'm gonna just do my pre-recorded videos. But this is a good icebreaker. This was good. This is helping to push me out there. Like I said, I'm re-releasing my book in November with that bonus chapter. I'm coming out with a book of daily affirmations called Jewel 365. That's gonna help.
Give some hearts to that.
That's gonna help keep you uplifted throughout the year. Those daily affirmations. And I really hope that my story, when y'all get the book and you read the story, that is helping, that we're able to catch those things. Like I said, I got a lot of stories to tell. But the book helped me, writing my own life story helped me say, whoa, okay, that was a red flag. That was a red flag. And that's why I'm big on this. I'm big on, I guess I would call myself an advocate against domestic violence, an advocate against toxic relationships. Like, let's end it now. Let's stop it now. Let's end this cycle. Be able to identify when you're in a toxic relationship. If you have a toxic friend, if they're being manipulative, if they're being controlling, if they just doing little things where you like, something about that friend, that ain't right. Whatever. To catch those things, because we don't want to accept that. We don't want to be able to continue to be in that. We want to stop it and catch it and change it or whatever.
Yeah, catch it, check it, and change it. You gotta catch it, you gotta check it, and then you gotta make a choice to change it.
Okay, well that's the put that on the thing, the 3 C's. Yeah, y'all. So that is about it.
Yeah, and just remember, all of these things are what helps to build the building blocks to move forward and be better independently, and also, if you're going to be in a relationship, to be better together. You got to be able to understand these seven jewels to be able.
They're not gems, they jewels.
These 7 jewels to be able to be prosperous, and to be able to move forward and become. Nobody wants to be the toxic person in a relationship, and nobody wants to be in a toxic relationship. So it really is up to us individually to own what we do so that we can push forward and propel into who we want to become.
Yep. So with that being said, it's a wrap. Jewel TV. Thank y'all for joining us. I really, I feel like a weight is done lift off my shoulder. I did a live, y'all. I did a live.
That's what our phones look like.
I did a live. Yeah, you know, we proud. So check out Jewel TV on my YouTube. Did somebody drop my YouTube in the comment?
I dropped one of the videos in the
Well,
comments.
I'll share it. Y'all check out. Like I said, those already got videos up there. I'll be putting out weekly content. I'm trying to stay consistent because that's one of my little toxic things. I'm not consistent with things, but I'm gonna be consistent with this. So y'all gonna see me. Y'all gonna hear me a lot. And I love y'all, and I thank y'all for joining.
Yes, thank you guys
for the
tuning
love.
in
Thank
to
you for the
Jewel TV.
support. I love y'all. All right. Night.
Have a good one on this week's episode, Jewel TV.
Extra.